Jared Welch, RacingNews.com, back for another unbelievable race preview, and we've got a doozy of a race this weekend. Race 9, Belmont Park, Saturday, Caesars Belmont Derby. It's a grade 1 worth $1 million, and of course, this kicks off the return of the Turf Triple Series. So this kicks things off, and then next up will be the grade 1 $1 million Caesars Saratoga Derby. The mile and 3/16 on August 6th. And then you have the grade 3 $1 million Caesars Jockey Club Derby at 12 furlongs during the Belmont Fall Meet. So this kicks things off at Belmont Park, the Belmont Derby. And I've got to say, this has got to be one of the toughest, not the toughest, runnings of this race in recent years. And field of 13 internationals. The United States kind of has their mix in there as well. International jockeys, all the best jockeys over here coming, to ride here. It's a who's in the 3-year-old turf division. And frankly, we don't have a clear front runner in terms of that division over here. And so naturally, you look to the internationals to start with. And we'll start with two that I'm most interested in. And I honestly think this race comes down to these two and kind of how they handle the United States switch. We'll talk a little bit about the U.S. horses as well here in a second, but I'll start with the horse that I think, is going to be my top pick. And again, it's Wednesday when I'm recording this. Odds aren't out yet, but from the market overseas, Stone Age, the 13 horse, Aiden O'Brien, and more coming over to ride. This is the horse. This is the market leader. Ryan Moore is coming with this horse to ride. Obviously has rode this horse many times in the past overseas. And like I said, in the international market, this horse is the favorite, Stone Age. So that tells you kind of what they think internationally of this horse, especially when you compare him to, say, Nation's Pride, who I think is the other, top horse international in this race. So let's look at Stone Age. And both those horses, by the way, coming out of that Epsom Derby, Kazoo Derby now, but it's at Epsom, and I call it the Epsom Derby. Both these horses came out of that race at Stone Age and Nation's Pride. Neither one of them ran particularly great. Stone Age finished 6th, beaten 10, and then Nation's Pride finished 8th, beaten 13th. Desert Crown that day was just unbelievable. He was so good. Past that, it was a pretty wide gap, and they all kind of came running. I honestly felt Stone Age ran the best of those two. And obviously, that was a whole race at 1.5 miles. We're going to 1.25 miles here in the Belmont Derby, which I think is going to help this horse in 3 starts, 2 wins, and 1 second going that distance. And, you look back at the last 2 prior to the Epsom Derby, wins by 5.5, wins by 9 prior to that. Both those races going 1.25 miles. Really, the draw is the biggest question mark, I think, for this horse. He wants to be more forwardly placed. He wants to go quick, and drawing the rail or drawing the outside might make things a little more difficult for him. But the bottom line is, that turn of foot that you saw, I think it's going to do more for him over here on the faster turf, and obviously there's a reason why they shipped him over here. So he, to me, is the one that I'm most interested in. The Derby trial, 2 back, that grade 3, this horse looked really, really good, just stretched out and just kind of cruised home. It was really, really impressive. And that's why the horse in the Epsom Derby, which, by the way, the Epsom Derby is one of the premier turf races in all the world, all year, every year, especially certainly for 3-year-olds. So it's a huge, huge race overseas. And this horse was 7-2. So this horse was bet. This horse was the favorite in the 2 races prior. This horse was bet hard going into that Epsom Derby. So that tells you kind of the thought behind this horse. Now the horse is kind of cutting back a little bit off that 1.5 miles. I think he's incredibly dangerous here. The other horse, top contender, I think, is another overseas horse. Appleby brings this one in, and Frankie Dettori gets the mount. That's number 10, Nation's Pride. Now, I was back and forth. I've been back and forth between these two, and I still could, depending on odds. Make sure you listen to Blinkers Off this week when we preview this race in more detail and obviously have more of a finalized selection. But Nation's Pride. This is a horse who also was exited that Epsom Derby last out and really didn't. He tried. He just wasn't really good enough, really. Just kind of struggled late in that race. I didn't think he was overly impressive. But you go back and two back really was the one I really looked at that day at Maidan. Got more of a faster, firmer turf, more like he's going to see here. And he was very, very impressive. I think tactically he's going to be the horse that I'm most fearful of late in the race. I don't know just how good he is, though. That's the question mark, right? This horse obviously had won 4 races in a row going into the Epsom Derby. Was 7-1, 8-1 in that race. So it wasn't like he was a long shot by any means either. So he certainly had a lot of upside. Appleby, we know. Godolphin, obviously there's no doubt that these horses will be bet, and they should be bet. I think the value might be more on Nation's Pride. We'll see once these odds come out. I definitely believe, though, Stone Age is going to be the favorite. But we'll see. We'll see how this thing plays out. Those are the two that you need to look for in this race. Stone Age, to me, is the best horse in the race. Just a matter of if he can take to this, this turf and the switch from overseas to the Belmont Park track. So we talked about the 2 international horses I'm most interested in this race. How about Americans? Are you looking, if you don't like these 2 coming over, or if that's on an angle you like to play, how about the Americans? Emmanuel making a big step up here after winning that Pennine Ridge on his turf debut. He's obviously going to be a pace factor. Hey, look, Classic Causeway. We saw him in the Ohio Derby. He didn't run awful. He ran 3rd. Not that long ago either, June 25th. And here we go. McPeak running them in here on the turf. I don't hate the fact that he's on the turf. I just don't know that this would be the spot I would have picked. Quite the test. But he should be a pace presence as well. So that kind of factors in a little bit if you like Emmanuel. Really, the 2 horses I'm most interested in here from the American standpoint is number 3. I'll start with number 3, Napoleonic War. This is a horse who finished 2nd to Emmanuel that day in the Pennine Ridge. I'm hesitant on him. Obviously, the connections are great. Chad Brown, Pratt's back aboard. Peter Brandt. The breeding's phenomenal. This is a horse that's obviously had a lot of hopes, a lot of upside from the start, but hasn't been able to break through in a stakes race, and that's a little bit concerning. Does get to stretch out longer than he's gone before. Got to think the pace is going to be solid enough for him to run into. They obviously, the connections are sticking with the plan and running them in these races. So if this pace is hot or is a steady pace, I think he's dangerous. I don't know how much you can trust him. And obviously with the price, you're going to have to make sure you get a good price. And I can't believe I'm going to say it, but if you're going American, how about number 9, Tis the Bomb? Now listen, it all depends on how much this horse was ruined by attempting, the Holy Bull and the Triple Crown or the Kentucky Derby Trail. And then of course running the Kentucky Derby, which he didn't run awful. He ran 9th, all things considered. But let's not forget, let's back up. Before all that happened, this horse wins at Kentucky Downs on the turf. Then he goes and wins at Keeneland on the turf in a grade 2. And then, quote unquote, won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf because Modern Games couldn't, technically be bet. So this is a horse that finished 2nd. Obviously, Modern Games is the winner of the actual race, but Tis the Bomb, from betting standpoint, finished 1st. And so he ran well in the Breeders' Cup that day. And then, of course, we never saw him again on the turf. And now he's back. So I think he's a very good turf horse. I really do. It's just a matter of if, what we've seen in the past, 6 months, 8 months is going to factor into this. So he should be a price. And I think the fact that you're getting, not to say Dylan Davis is a bad jockey, but you're not getting the Irads, you're not getting the Pratts or whatever, Rosario, you're getting someone else. And so you might get a better price here. And my rule, McPeak has got to be a price to play, especially in these stakes races. So Tis the Bomb is interesting for me, depending on that price. But bottom line, we've seen it time and time again. And I think it's going to be the same with the Oaks earlier in the card. It goes to the internationals. If they show up, they will be tough to beat. All right, let me know your thoughts below. who's going to win? What does this race mean long term? Obviously, this is not a Breeders' Cup, official Breeders' Cup winning your ring kind of race, but let's be honest, these are Breeders' Cup caliber type horses that will frankly be making their names known throughout the summer and hopefully on to the Breeders' Cup. So give me your thoughts. Who's going to win this race? Who do you like moving forward? Are the internationals a cut below and you're going to go US? I want to know your thoughts below. Make sure you hit like. Make sure you hit subscribe. Make sure you hit that little notification bell ding so you get alerted next time we go live. And, of course, go to our YouTube page and watch all of our amazing content for this coming weekend and all the content we have for horse racing going on in the country. All right, till next time. See you guys.